Let's talk about Pluto. I think Pluto is my favorite planet.
That's awesome.
Well, I said Jupiter was, but Jupiter really is my favorite planet, but Pluto is my favorite misunderstood planet. Like of all the planets that people don't like, I like Pluto. Way more than Saturn. Saturn can kick rocks. Sorry, Saturn, but Pluto can come to the table because Pluto always promises a rebirth. Saturn's like, do the hard work and you might get a reward. But Pluto's like, you're going to be so much better after this. You're going to evolve. You're going to be something totally different. I live for that. Pluto's the slowest moving planet. It's tiny. There's debate on whether it's even a planet. It definitely is because we feel it. People get really tore up about Mercury retrograde and now people are starting to get tore up about Saturn transits. I'm like, have you ever had a Pluto transit? Because those are rough and they last a long time, multiple years. I had a Pluto transit in 2018. My therapist was on speed dial. I cried. I went to astrology school. Like all these things were so much better to like help elevate me. And I know, Steph, you've been going through a Pluto transit, and luckily this Pluto, yeah, 3 years. They last a long time.
Or 3 transits also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But probably 3 years because it's been sort of going back and forth because it retrogrades. It only moves a couple degrees a year. So what we're looking at this year is a build on to what happened last year. Last year, we had the first taste of Pluto in Aquarius. It's been in Capricorn since 2008. And it's finally, not this year, but next year, going to officially leave Capricorn for good. And when I say for good, for our lifetime, because it takes 245 years to go around the zodiac. So we're not going to see the next time that it's in Capricorn. It's going to be in Aquarius until about 2040. And Pluto in Aquarius promises very different things from what we've experienced with Pluto in Capricorn. Since 2008, we've been revitalizing and killing off, dismantling, and rebuilding so much of our governmental financial structures, economy, all of these things that are very Capricorn in nature, government structures, money, tradition, things that have been in the fabric of our society, especially the US, for a really long time, because the US is in its Pluto return. Pluto is in Capricorn in the United States birth chart. So this is actually a very important transit because the United States has finally completed a full Pluto transit, which is probably why everything feels kind of shaky if you live here. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on, lots of transformation and changes and things that really need to die and be reborn. And Pluto in Aquarius is going to help with that because we finally completed a full cycle. Pluto in Aquarius, if we think about the themes of Aquarius, we think of community, technology, humanitarianism, and science fiction, like the future. Those are things that fall under the realm of Aquarian. When we think about Aquarius, I think of Lady Liberty, like holding the torch, guiding us towards a better, brighter future. A lot of Aquarius folks that I work with have beautiful ideas that they feel like the rest of the world doesn't understand until many years later, because Aquarian people can kind of see the future. And while we're having this transit, we're all going to be able to see the future a little bit more and hopefully make better tweaks to our actions, habits, lifestyles, and society at large to improve our existence and the future existence. This transit we had a little bit of it last year. So from March 23rd of 2023 until June 11th, 2023, that was the first stint. Then it retrograded. But if you recall, in April, right after this, ChatGPT was the thing that everyone was talking about. ChatGPT is an AI bot where you can basically use it like Google, but it is super intelligent. And this was kind of the beginning of using AI. And then now everyone's using these AI filters and creating these alternative generated images. Like I created a series of Christmas cards with my photo that were generated by AI just for fun. I was like, this is kind of wild. And we're starting to see more of this. And now it's kind of a toy, sort of like the early days of the internet, until it's not going to be a toy. And that's what we're going to see during this very long transit of Pluto in Aquarius that is going to be here until 2040. So everyone, there's either you love AI or you really fear it and it's confusing, but it is something that we are going to have to understand and get to know and work with. You can fight it all you want to. You can't fight against it. It's something that's going to be a true reality over the next several years because of this Pluto in Aquarius. And we are going to see the full consequences, both positive and negative, and we're going to have to adjust our lives to that. It's like a full reboot of how we've been doing things, which we're really due for. We haven't updated the 40-hour work week since the Industrial Revolution. Now we have computers and the internet and AI, so maybe our work and the way that we labor and go to offices and the hours that we work for other people are drastically going to change, and our sources of income are going to change through this transit. Think about Pluto is whatever sign that Pluto is in, it alchemizes, transforms, but first it has to kill off what's not working. So what we're going to do as we move into Pluto and Aquarius, we're going to see all the ways that Aquarian things like technology, humanitarianism, which I'll get to in a second, globalism, are not working. Like, where is the cancer in this and where do we need to cut it out? That's what Pluto does. It transforms it, alchemizes it, and turns it into something better. And that's what we're going to be doing during this cycle. One of the things that we can do is focus on community that's in real life, because we're going to start to see some of the dangers of the internet, which we already have, but from like a mental health perspective, from a preservation point of view, like what is actually yours in real life. If you want to get really deep into this, research things related to the simulacra and the simulation. There's this idea that the internet is kind of like this whole, it's kind of becoming this like external world. We're already seeing some of that as the metaverse is being built out. It's like we live in this world and there's this other world that we build online. Like when we build online businesses, it's like how much of it exists in the real world and how much of it is on the online world. And we have to be really conscious to decide, where do we end and where does our internet persona begin? Where does our internet life begin? What are the boundaries around that? Like, do we have friends and people in real life, or are they just people on the internet? And are they people on the internet that we can actually commune with in real life? Can we create retreats and meet our online friends? So there's places in this where the lines get blurred, and there's places in this where they can be really separate. And that's one of our jobs this year, is to figure out what's our relationship with technology and the internet at large. And then we'll start to explore things like AI. Have you seen those trends online, like Instagram, TikTok, people talking about their ins and outs of the year ahead? And one thing I keep seeing is one of the ins is that offline and time offline is a luxury. Snail mail, email, all of these things over texting, DMs, spending so much time online, like monitoring your screen time. This is what all the trendy people on the influencers on these apps are talking about as an ongoing trend. And I think it really goes along with Pluto in Aquarius. And we're going to have it for a longer stint this year. So it's January 20th until September 1st. We're going to have Pluto in Aquarius before it retrogrades back into Capricorn one final time before it's officially there. So we're kind of flirting with it. We're getting to know, what is this next phase of life about to be? What are we going to taste? Last year, it only reached 0 degrees of Aquarius, so it barely even got in the sign. And this year, it's going to get in a little closer. So if you have an early degree Aquarius sun, so let's say you were born at the very beginning of Aquarius season, and if you were also born right around the beginning of Leo season, so like July 20th, and then maybe even in the corner signs, like the very beginning of Taurus and the very beginning of Scorpio. So that would be like April 20th and then October 20th. Yeah, those are the time periods where you will feel Pluto. You will be having a Pluto transit if you're born right around those dates, or you have planets right around 1 to 2 degrees of a fixed sign. The fixed signs are Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio. Pluto is only going to reach at the maximum the middle part of 1 degree. this year. Like I'm telling you, it moves. I know it's going to be at 2 degrees. It's going to be at 2 degrees in May. It moves so slowly. Like we're only going to see 0, 1, and 2 degrees. And it's going to retrograde on May 3rd, which Pluto retrograde is not really of significance. We don't really notice it as much. You might notice it in changes with like stock market, cryptocurrency markets, and things like that. If you follow that kind of thing, there has been some people that have tracked Pluto transits, especially related to Aquarius with the cryptocurrency market. And so the retrograde might have some effect on those things, but it really won't affect anything in your personal life for the most part, unless you have anything at 2 degrees of a fixed sign, then you might feel it a little bit more than others. A couple of other things to think about is when I think of Aquarius, I kind of think of this anti-consumerist, intentional energy. And something that comes to mind, is, in addition to being offline and snail mail, is have you seen some of the younger Gen Z getting flip phones for fun because they want to be mindful when they go out dancing? They don't want to be on their phones. They don't want to take photos when they're in an intoxicated state that are going to last on the internet. As a millennial, we didn't think about those things. Now Gen Z is being more conscious about our internet perspective, our internet persona, like who are we online and how do we create a life that's offline? I think we'll see more things like thrifting, growing community gardens, things that not only support yourself, but support you and the ripple effect of humanity. Like thrifting, for example, is like, you're not going to pollute the earth. You're taking something that's already existed and making it work. Or repairing items. Like there's this guy on TikTok that's teaching people how to sew in 2024. And I think that's a really beautiful expression of this. Elizabeth said Gen Z are having reading parties where they put their phones down and read books together. I love this. I love this. Yeah, scheduling a no buy month. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about this, like low spend, no buying. Louisa said there's some confusion about how it transits one person but not another's. It depends on where it conjoins your natal chart. So like I said, because it's only, if you think about this big wheel, like the wheel behind Stephanie, and it's moving. Can you see Aquarius on there behind you, Stephanie? Can you like point to it? Like point to like the very tiny, tiny portion. It's like right behind you.
Aquarius is, that
Yeah.
looks.
So it's moving like this much. So even if you're an Aquarius, but you're born like at the bottom half of the sign, you're not going to experience it on a personal level. Like everyone's going to feel the shift. Everyone's probably, if you're tuned into this stuff, if you're an intuitive person, you're going to feel like the transition or the shift into this new era for a moment. But you'll feel it more personally if you have a planet there. Like if your moon is at 1 degree Aquarius, you're going to feel that much more intensely than other people. You're in for a lot of personal evolution if you have Pluto aspecting your individual chart. I hope that answers the question. I know it's kind of tricky. I don't want to get too advanced, but I do want to clear things up.
We got a thumbs up from Louisa.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And then if we move ahead, like I said, we have it fully in 2025, but it does come back and joins us in November, joins us on November 20th. So thanks for including that, Renee, in here, right around the 19th, 20th, depending on your ephemeris and the date. My ephemeris is a little late. It says November 20th, but right around that date is when it will move and officially be there. But we have a reprieve from it one last time. So we do have Capricorn from September to November for one last stint during the freaking election.
Of course.
At the 29th degree. So as an aside, one thing I work with a lot is looking at the the 29th degree and the 0 degrees in a chart. If you have planets at the 29th or the 0 degrees, they mean very different things in the course of personal evolution. And when we have a transit of something at a 29th degree, we feel it so critically. Like we feel the intensity, we feel the shadow side, the negative side of that sign and that planet and that placement. So hopefully September to November is the smoothest election we've ever had.
We can only hope. It won't be Mercury retrograde, so at least we have that going for us.
Yeah, the last one there was a Mercury retrograde, and I was like, this is so awful. So many other governments have astrologers on staff, and we really need one. And
Yeah.
sure enough, the ballots were like still being counted for like weeks and days on end, and there was so much miscommunication about ballot fraud and all this stuff. So it was definitely a Mercury retrograde mess. Luckily, we don't have that. We just have, honestly, one thing that I think could manifest is just totally a random theory, is people are talking about the dissolution of the two-party system. And maybe with Pluto at the final degree of Capricorn, which represents government, is kind of saying like, yeah, this two-party system thing really isn't working. So we need to knock it down and rebuild and let it be reborn. So maybe we'll see through the events that transpire that we really need to move out of that binary system. So that's just a random theory. I don't really talk about politics and astrology together. It kind of feels like a wet blanket, but when we're in this, we have to talk about it a little bit because it is part of our landscape.
I was going to just remind people, most people know, but it's not as if the day that Pluto moves into a new sign, there's some huge event. This is just, a marker. We're already on the boat and it's moving. It's just like you cross a little marker. But yeah, like if you might see stuff in astrology, like here it is, and they expect something major to happen on that day, but it usually isn't like that with the outer planets. But you never know. Yeah, I usually see it as a process.